Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us for a special vice presidential debate preview right here on ABC4 Plus. I'm Rick Aaron.
And I'm Emily Flores. We thank you for joining us. Well, a political expert at the Hinckley Institute of Politics predicts this to be a more civilized debate this evening than the first presidential debate.
Mike Pence is such a steady presence. He doesn't get riled up by another person or by a moderator. Senator Harris is this seasoned prosecutor who knows how to cross-examine and how to dive into issues in a really measured way.
The Y2 Analytics poll shows 50% of voters in Utah support President Trump and Vice President Pence, while 40% support Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris. Experts saying that with folks will be tuning into the vice presidential debate to learn about where the parties stand on certain policies, which some say it was lacking in the first presidential debate. Despite more eyes watching how the candidates address the pandemic and the economy, this debate will likely have little influence on the election.
We can really see that they move polls, but their lasting impact is questionable. But the stakes here are so high, not only because we have two older presidential candidates, we have one that has been diagnosed with COVID-19.
Morgan Lyon-Cotta, who you just heard from, says that Pence and Harris will be trying to activate undecided voters from the upcoming November election. And joining us now for the latest on how undecided voters will affect this election, we turn to ABC4's Jordan Burroughs, who continues our team coverage. Jordan.
Utah's Director of Elections, Justin Lee, tells me absentee ballots have not yet been sent out, but voters should use tonight's vice presidential election to decide who they will vote for in the upcoming 2020 presidential election. Now, there's a recent Reuters poll of roughly 5,000 undecided voters. It shows that 70% of them are more likely to vote for Democrat Joe Biden. Lee also says these undecided voters are more likely to be young in age and are ones who will request those absentee ballots. I talked to Tom Porter. He's a senior at the U. He told me his mind isn't made up yet, and he still needs time to figure out who to vote for. He's hoping tonight's VP debate can help him decide. He tells me he's a moderate and says he's keeping an eye on two things tonight.
I would like clarity, and I would like honesty and the ability for a candidate to not just tell me why their opponent is worse than them, but why they consider themselves better than their opponent.
Porter told me last week at that presidential debate, it left him with more questions than answers. He felt even more undecided. He is looking for more honesty and transparency in this VP debate tonight. I also talked to some other voters out here in Salt Lake City this evening. While there is a minority of undecided voters, the majority tell me their vote for the 2020 presidential election was an easy one. Reporting live at the University of Utah, Jordan Burroughs, ABC4.
All right, thank you, Jordan. Demonstrations are expected tonight near the debate center, with police have actually designated a rally and protest zone along 1300 East and 200 South. ABC4 investigator Jason Wynn has more.
This is history in the making.
As soon as the University of Utah Police Chief Rodney Chapman took office, his team started planning for the vice presidential debate, and we're getting a lot of calls from law enforcement agencies.
They're offering more than we're asking. And just that spirit of cooperation has just been something that's really a pleasant thing to see and experience.
The spirit of cooperation will be put to the test Wednesday. Salt Lake City has seen its share of violent protest on May 30th and July 9th.
Our primary goal is safety and protecting people's First Amendment rights, right? To have the opportunity to come up and say what they have to say, to come up with signs or whatever the case may be and have their voices heard.
Law enforcement is preparing to see protesters, militia, and supporters at the debate. Troopers and officers will be present, visible in their uniforms, only pulling out riot gear when needed.
We aren't going to put up with riotous behavior or mob-like behavior where there's destruction of property, things being thrown or anything like that. If that does happen, we will take action.
To ensure matters stay calm, Chief Chapman and his team went to Cleveland for the presidential debate, where he learned communication will be key to a successful debate.
I was very pleased to see the things that have gone into our consideration and our planning were the things that we saw in operation in Cleveland. So it gave me a strong vote of confidence in the manner in which we're preparing.
All right, again, Jason Wynn reporting there. Thank you. Well, moving forward with our live debate coverage tonight, Vice President Mike Pence and candidate Kamala Harris facing off at the University of Utah. ABC4's senior political correspondent Glenn Mills is there live at Kingsbury Hall with more. Glenn, what a beautiful evening to be out there.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Things are really getting exciting here as people start to even file into Kingsbury Hall for this debate. Students getting their hands on the tickets for that one tonight. Also surrogates for the candidates showing up as well. We do have with us now former presidential candidate and former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Thanks for your time. Appreciate having you with us.
Thank you.
You helped Senator Harris get ready for this debate. What went into that?
Well, the most important thing is to prepare for all of the different talking points that someone like Mike Pence might deliver, and at the same time not get distracted from the message that we have for the American people. I'm really glad that she's going to have a chance tonight to speak directly to America, not just about this administration's failures and how we came to have the worst response to the coronavirus in the developed world, but just as importantly, what we could have if we had better leadership, what it would mean to bring Americans together to stabilize this country, to stabilize our economy, and actually move ahead.
Last week we all watched the presidential debate. A lot of voters felt like they didn't get what they needed to get out of that.
Yeah.
Do you expect a very different exchange here tonight?
I do.
And talk about that.
Like most people, I was watching that debate and it felt almost unwatchable. I do think that tonight is going to be, I hope tonight is going to be more civil. The Vice President does have a way of interrupting, but not quite like the President does. And of course, we're looking to the moderator to make sure that if anything's said that's untrue, there will be kind of fact-checking in real time.
What would be the key for Senator Harris in the event that were to happen, if she were to be interrupted? How did you prepare for that?
The most important thing is not to be thrown off of the very important message that she has for the American people. She represents a historic ticket. She's running at the side of the person who I believe is going to, as he says, restore the soul of the nation, bring us together. It's one of the reasons you see a lot of Republicans as well as independents. Most recently, a chair of the RNC, former chair of the RNC, actually endorsing Joe Biden, building that coalition. And I think what you'll see is a call out to that broader coalition saying, hey, we may not agree on absolutely everything, but most of us agree that we need to move on from this chaos.
Many political pundits are looking at the potential strategy from the Pence campaign tonight, believing that he will try to tie the Biden-Harris ticket to the radical left. What went into your preparations for that, and what would be your response to that?
Well, I think they will do anything they can to distract from the issues like what's going on with the pandemic, and of course the fact that they're working to take away health care coverage from pre-existing conditions and those sorts of things. So there may be this kind of name calling or labeling, but I think most Americans are going to see through it. I mean, nobody looks at Joe Biden and thinks they're looking into the eyes of a radical extremist. It just doesn't add up. When you look at the issues, whether we're talking about health care, whether we're talking about what should happen to this Supreme Court seat, whether we're talking about taxes for the wealthy, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden agree with most Americans. Mike Pence and Donald Trump disagree with most Americans. So we're on very solid ground for these accusations of extremism.
Typically, in a typical election year, voters wouldn't put a lot into a VP debate like this one, but it appears there's a much different impact this year that could potentially have. Do you believe that this is more consequential than in past election years, this debate here tonight?
We know nothing about this election year is typical, right? And so I think everything takes on added importance, especially with the news that we've had in the last couple of weeks, the president's diagnosis. And people really want to get a sense of that team, I think, that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris represent. And since we haven't had as much traditional campaigning, I think this is a really special opportunity, as you know, the only vice presidential debate that will happen. And so it really creates a chance to see side by side these two very different views of where the country ought to go.
After you got out of the race, you were pretty quick to get on Joe Biden's campaign. Believe it or not, I was actually in the room with Senator Sanders because he was here in Salt Lake City at the time. You and others, Klobuchar and others, made their endorsement of Vice President Biden. What was it that led to that decision, and why did you want to get up and do that up front?
Yeah, well, the reason I wanted to support Joe Biden was I saw in his campaign message something that reminded me of a lot of the most important parts of ours. We're different styles, obviously, different messengers, but he talks a lot about the soul of the nation. And my campaign was really about belonging in a lot of ways. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized how those ideas lined up. That yes, we need better policies, but we also just need a more decent character and tone kind of emanating from the White House and calling us to our highest values. So so I knew that after I stepped out of the race, I had an obligation to ask my supporters to be part of something bigger than ourselves, and I didn't want to waste any time doing that.
Outside of the perimeter, you can hear them right now, protesters. This is a really charged election year. There's been a big push to get people out to vote. What is your message to those who maybe haven't taken that step, and how important is that for them to go make their voices heard in November?
It's critically important. I hope people will go to iwillvote.com, learn more about how to vote in their area, double check that you're registered, everything that you need, because I'll tell you, if you're frustrated with the system, and I am too, your moment of maximum power to actually do something about it is the moment that you fill out that ballot. That is the moment that the Constitution chooses for us to be able to make sure our leaders are working for us rather than the other way around. And more than ever, lives depend on this vote. Our healthcare depends on it. Our ability to get out of this pandemic depends on it. Our economy depends on it. All politics is not only local, but in my view, personal. And I hope people vote their personal stakes in this election.
Former presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg joining us tonight. We really appreciate your time and your insight as you helped Senator Harris prepare for tonight's debate.
Thanks for having me. We really enjoyed it on the ground here.
You bet. Back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you very much, Glenn. Well, there's a lot of interest in this debate, obviously, throughout the state of Utah. Even in this pandemic era, people are having watch parties at homes and businesses. ABC4's Jordan Verdadero joins us live from Ogden, where one watch party is planned there. Jordan?
Rick, I'm at Broovies, which is a local movie theater that's also a restaurant and bar, and the watch party that is going to be played on the big screen right here. The whole restaurant in Ogden is run by just a handful of people, and they've been here all day preparing for this free event. The showing will begin at 7 p.m., but they'll open up at 6. The manager tells me the pandemic has caused some difficulty like many local businesses, but they hope by adapting to the times and offering this unique experience, it will bring some revenue. Social distancing is required, so are masks until you're seated. And if you come in a group, you'll be seated with your friends, but if you come by yourself or one other person, there will be empty seats to keep customers safe.
People have so many different types of opinions or views, and this is more of a non-biased area. They can actually watch it and not have to worry.
Broovies has another location in Salt Lake City, so if you're over there, you can watch the event too. Reporting live in Ogden, I'm Jordan Verdadero, ABC4 News.
Thank you, Jordan. Well, even if they haven't shown much interest, your kids are well aware that it's election season, and they're probably having some questions to ask. ABC4's Sarah Martin chatted with National Geographic Kids Editor-in-Chief on Good Morning Utah today about helping your kids understand the politics they're hearing and even helping them get involved. The editor recommending that directing your kids to the issues, having open conversations, and being honest with your kids about what you yourself do not quite understand. Then look for resources together.
It's all about the teachable moments with the election. So, parents may want to focus on issues rather than the person. Take them to the polls with you, or if you're voting by mail, take them to the post office to drop off your mail and really show them the importance of voting.
Some good advice there. Well, Nat Geo Kids has resources for parents and children about politics, the election, even understanding media bias and media culture. You can find those links on our website, abc4.com.
Now taking another live look at Kingsbury Hall, where just in a little over an hour, the debate between Vice President Mike Pence and California Senator Kamala Harris is slated to get underway.
Yes, last-minute preparations currently underway as people representing both candidates are there at the campus. We will have live team coverage from the debate all evening on air and online as you're here with us on ABC4plus.com. Now, the debate starts right here at ABC4 at 7 p.m. Nearly 100 million people across the country are anticipated to watch this debate. We'll also have coverage on the debate here again on ABC4.com.
Coming up next, we'll have ABC4 News on air at 6 o'clock.
Yep, we'll see you there.